Hello, welcome to the Carrot Cake podcast. This is uh, Carrot and
Me, Cake,
go.
Pancake, the one
There we go.
and only. And
Today we're just going to be discussing our thoughts over the current anime season and a couple other divergent topics as we go along.
right, some of our favorite anime with some interesting takes and some garbage anime with some probably bad takes that will upset people. But that's what we're here for.
All right. To start with, what seasonals are you watching right now?
Well, I just recently today watched the latest Shumatsu Train, which it is my favorite airing seasonal actually right now,
I
unironically.
still need to watch the new episode, but Shimatsu Train definitely most eye catching of the like new shows that aren't like a manga adaptation or a sequel to some other previously airing show.
Yeah, a lot of the sequel stuff is pretty good as well, but like strictly speaking, non-sequel, it's Shumatsu Train for me.
Shimatsu Train is is very weird. The tone for the show it varies episode to episode, but consistently has like a very like somber or like sinister undertone throughout a lot of the arcs and episodes. Like the mushroom arc. The mushroom arc was literally an entire episode dedicated to like addiction and people who are just like perfectly fine with succumbing to their vices until it kills them.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, that's like probably not even the most dark thing.
No, every episode has that kind of element to it. Even the first one. The first episode is about how all the people in Agano become different animals, and you have no control over what animal you become. So you could literally become like an ant and die within like the next year or less.
Right.
And they even like expand upon that and be like, uh, Yoka, her mom turned into a hamster, and hamsters only live for like 4 years. So she's likely gonna die before they can ever see Yoka again.
As messed up as that is. Even though like all the animal in my opinion, all the animals that we see, they're drawn like so like cute and innocent, and this is probably like compared to some of these other stops along the train track, which each one has like some horrific event kind of
It has
to
a
them.
theme, yeah.
Yeah, the animal one is like the most innocent almost compared to some of these other ones. Be-
Well, even then, they have that moment at the end of the first episode where the old man who turned into a bear, he starts like succumbing to his own bear instincts, and he's like, "I kind of want to eat the rest of you guys," and he starts getting violent. So it's like they're becoming an animal. Not only does it, they literally just become the animal, and over time they're going to slowly stop being human. They're just going to become the animal on an instinctual level.
and it's like permaset to 21 years 3 months is when they become an animal.
I thought it was earlier than that.
No, it's they restated it in the latest episode. There's a lot actually learned in the latest episode that I don't know if you want me to like go into because they just start dropping mad lore in the latest one.
We can hold off on that. Let's talk about. Uh, I mean, on top of like the mushroom episode, there's the episode where everybody is turned into just stone, and that's just their life now. It's literally an entire section of Japan became Doctor Stone.
Right? And they have their senses still.
Where did it state that they still had all their senses?
Well, the one that talked to them was talking about how bad they would like to feel the orange that was on the ground. So like
Oh,
I meant like more like they're actually there. Whereas like Doctor Stone, a lot of the people that turn to stone, uh, they kind of like don't they like lose focus of what's happening around them?
well, no. It's the same. It's the same thing with Doctor Stone, where everybody is still extremely conscious of the fact that they can't move and that they're like almost essentially dead, but still conscious about it. But it's because of how long they were in that state that their brain eventually just like shut itself off to so they didn't have to cope with the fact that they're like in this eternal prison.
Well, then yeah, that I guess that
That's
is the
why
same.
Senku in particular, when he because he stimulated his brain for that entire time period, as well as his friend Taiju, I think it's Taiju.
Sure.
Because they were keeping their consciousness alive throughout that entire time, they were most easily broken out of the stone without having to like actually concoct like a full potion like they did with the rest of them. It
Right.
was stated that it was the what was it? The potassium or something from the bat guano is what got Senku to finally wake up. But they had to like make a real actual cure to get other people out because most of the other people they were not expunging calories and using their energy of their brain to keep themselves conscious the whole time.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That checks out. I mean, I guess
But yeah,
that's also better than one of the other stops on the thing where people literally turned into houses.
yeah, that's pretty
Well,
bad.
not really houses, more like little castles.
It's the whole show is really painting like a really nightmarish apocalypse uh, with this very cutesy, like precure almost looking art style and tone, where all the girls really are not taking this very seriously. Even though for the majority of people, this is literally just hell, and there's no escape from it. There's maybe been like two or three stops where the people there are like somewhat normal.
Oh,
And that would be like the stop where everybody's little.
yeah. That's the stop that
Oh
actually
yeah, and
has one of the scientists that kind of knows what's behind this. Part of
yeah, but
the
he's like
wibbly wobbly
he's just
surgery.
a nerd power tripping.
No, no, not him. The redhead scientist lady who
Oh, the
who avoided the
doctor.
wibbly wobbly surgery.
Yeah, and the very first episode, they go into the how the 5G cult or whatever. They're literally a like evil cult who remove people's brains for like trying to go against them.
Some weird shit like that.
It's definitely the tone of the show is completely antithetical to like what they're presenting in the actual material. It's pretty interesting. It's making me kind of wonder how they're going to handle the conclusion
Well, from my
because there has been
perspective,
so many like really weird and dark elements brought in that kind of get glossed over.
yeah, I think it is just gonna all mainly be glossed over because we're skipping stops because it's only a 12 episode series and there's way more than 12 stops.
So they're just going to basically treat all the material as a joke, even though it's really not.
Right. Like this is like I assume a lot of this is like permanent because like how do you undo some of this stuff? They come up with the idea that like some of the things you what you believe is like true in the world, but like the creator actually posted on Twitter that like once stuff is lost, it can't be like returned or something like along those
Well,
lines.
even if they undo the 7G incident that completely messed up the world, a lot of people have already just died. Like
Yeah,
half of the mushroom people, they're just dead.
There's zombies, so they're
And all
they're
the
all dead.
zombies poof out of existence when they're killed. And even if, I mean, you can't bring back a zombie, it's already dead.
The the town where people turned into like Precure characters, the
Yeah,
Precure are
that
dead.
one's really kind of I that episode was really weird because the characters overwrote the original personalities of the people. So the people themselves kind of like aren't even there anymore. They're literally just their entire town has become a TV show.
Right.
I'm imagining it's probably going to end the same way as like One Piece did with Dressrosa, where everyone just poofs back and it's all normal again.
Oh,
But it's kind of hard to imagine that it does.
I I don't feel like it's gonna have an undo at the end.
You think everyone's just going to live with the consequences of
I
this
I think what's
crazy
gonna
world?
happen is they're gonna probably shift the world into like a new, more new thing because from what we've gathered, a lot of this just has to come down to like how people think and how they perceive things. Because the world as it is kind of like I believe still they don't know if there's anything beyond this train track anymore, and I think that it's come down to like probably who pressed the 7G button because a lot of the world stuff is kind of like almost wrapped around maybe a child's thoughts. So that's at least what I'm picking up because they have the map that like shows stuff and
You
really
think
come.
Yona or Yoka is the one responsible for like what the world is like?
They said in the Precure episode that she's become the princess of Ikebukuro.
Hmm.
So yes, I do think that. But also, I might be wrong on that because it. How would like. Is this just like the full scope of it? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's a Japanese anime. It's only really gonna focus on what's in Japan, especially if it's only 12 episodes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on, we got
Moving on.
Konosuba season 3. I have
Konosuba.
been I have been thoroughly enjoying the third season of Konosuba. I think genuinely it might be better than season two, even like
I
even just this
100%
far.
better than season two. Like 100% for me at least.
I found it kind of crazy how the reaction on Twitter was to season three, where a lot of people were saying that they didn't really enjoy the comedy of it anymore. And for me personally, I was like, I don't know what you guys are going on about because I think the comedy's been better than it ever has been. The entire first half of the season was solely dedicated to making Kazuma look like the biggest fucking loser in the entire world, like almost as much as the movie did. And it really comes to like a head in the episode where they raid the palace because the whole season they've just been beating down Kazuma for being a pathetic, degenerate loser because he is. And then he like fully showcases what he's actually capable of in the raid on the palace. And you're like, damn, okay, Cosmo like can actually hold his own in a fight, and he's actually competent when he's not tard wrangling all the other characters.
Along with that, they also made Darkness not just the same joke, which I feel
Yeah,
like
they
season
they
two
they
literally
made Darkness
hammered.
less of a flanderized like character. She's not just the pervert gag, except in reverse, where she's like she likes being perved on. They made her very, very much an established character this season with her noble standing, essentially driving her to
Not be
try
as
to
embarrassing.
yeah not be as embarrassing to everyone else.
I also feel like Aqua has at least had a little bit more character growth in like getting things done. Does that make sense?
I don't know about that. I think Aqua's pretty much the same as she's always been. I guess we're just seeing her do more.
I mean,
Mostly,
she's the most powerful one, actually, but like
yeah.
doesn't use it.
Well, she's the most powerful, but she's also the most arrogant.
Right. I always felt that
So,
Megumin is the one that hasn't really changed, but it also feels like they're kind of like hyping up the relationship between her and Kazuma more and more.
well, that's because they're trying to build it to where they have like a real, actual relationship, probably by the end of the season or so.
I wonder if that actually does come to fruition at all.
It's pretty clear that she likes him and he likes her at least somewhat, especially over the course of the movie. The Konosuba movie was pretty much squarely dedicated to establishing that this is like the main ship.
Exactly. And
Although I won't
that's a
lie,
big thing with the movie.
Darkness has made an extremely strong presence in the season. It's kind of crazy just how much her character has changed from the first two seasons to this one, where she has like actual stakes and she seems like actually takes situations seriously. And then let's move on.
Moving on.
What's another one that we're both watching?
Both watching.
Level 2, chilling in another world with level 2 cheat powers.
Oh yes. I just watched the latest episode today.
Uh, I'll say this much, even though this show is probably like one of the more generic ones I'm watching, I really, really, really like the character designs of like the majority of the characters.
Right. I actually also really like the relationship dynamics aren't like a harem. It's not a harem.
They're
Well,
not purely one-sided.
right. There's actually, to what I can tell from at least at this point, there are three like set relationships, and we actually follow each one. We follow the blonde hero and like the dumb,
The
I don't know.
dumb bimbo follower.
Yeah, the dumb. Like it takes like at least like a almost a third in the latest episode just
It's
following
it's kind
them.
of it's kind of crazy to me that they made the blonde hero guy. They made him such a hateable asshole, and yet they still build him as like a character charming enough to have his own little romantic duo.
Right.
They still kind of went a different direction with him than I would have assumed. I would have assumed after he turned into the big monster, they just kill him off because that's what they do in like the majority of these isekai. Or well, this isn't an isekai necessarily. It is, but it also
Isekai
isn't.
to an isekai.
That yeah, I was
Fantasy
gonna
into a
say it
fantasy.
was very crazy to me that this show started already in a pretty traditional isekai fantasy world, and they took that character from that world with and put him into an even more generic isekai world, and it was just like a weird starting place. It really doesn't have a huge impact
No,
on his
the
character
the only
either.
difference they like basically show is that his
The
original
other world
world
is that he came from is worse.
is it's just like racist against other species, and then he goes this other one, and all the other species are basically working together, and that's also a thing with like the main second relationship with Ballarosa and the Demon
And the
King,
Demon King,
because essentially if they got together, their whole plan might be is just to have all the races be all friendly. Although Ballarosa is kind of like a tsundere, so she doesn't really wanna, but she dreams about him.
from the ED alone, you would probably assume that four the four adventurer girls who live in the house with them were like part of a harem or were kind of like nothing characters, like the majority of
Harem anime.
seasonal isekai. But they all kind of have their own little mini arcs throughout, like in the middle of the season.
They each have like
Especially with
a goal.
Bellarosa. Bellarosa definitely was given. particular interest because the creator decided I kind of want to use this character and this design for something. So I'm gonna have her become the romantic interest of my big buff daddy demon lord that I made.
Exactly. And they have they
I genuinely I like that. I would love to see more of these kind of throwaway isekai shows that are not made to be humongously expansive stories or that are made to delve into a specific theme or tone. I think doing stuff like this, where you have all these random sort of nothing characters, but you expand upon them by connecting them to the other characters from different factions in the show, like romantically, it definitely adds a lot more interest than I otherwise would have had.
okay, but you know what the real reason this show is being carried by, right?
Yeah, the main girl, Finral,
I was just
what
gonna
is
say
her
the
name?
OP.
Fenrir? The OP, yeah, I mean, yeah, the opening for it was mind blowing. I was like, oh my god, they made a full on uh, rom com, almost like an Urusei Yatsura level opening for the show. Like fully dedicated to the main girl espousing her love for her husband. And it was like completely different from what anyone expected because the first episode of the show gave zero hints of that.
I'm glad that the OP did what it did because it basically got people onto the show.
It really did not.
I think it did.
I think it got people on for one episode and then they were like, oh, this is kind of stupid, and they stopped watching.
Well, I guess the first few episodes we don't really get to the relationship. We really just see our character do the same thing you see in like most
Doesn't he
isekai.
literally say he's going to marry her in the second episode?
I don't think he admits that until like episode
He
5 or
fake
6.
marries her in the second episode.
Yeah.
But she takes it as fully genuine, and I think he comes to realize she took it as genuine.
They also end up they've actually censored a few things from the anime so that we don't see their
I
relationship
know.
be as real as it should be.
The anime, unfortunately, gives him the cock block when him and Fenrir were supposed to consummate their marriage.
And apparently have a kid, which is in the series.
They have a kid within the whatever they
I've been
cover.
told that they have a kid and it's not that far out from this point. So people are like, "Oh, they're just going to off-screen this?"
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a thing with recently, especially with what comes to mind,
Chilling.
farming life in another world,
Chilling in the
chilling.
30s.
Yeah, chilling in his 30s. Several of these throwaway isekais have made characters actually genuinely commit and get married and have a child and like actually start a new life. And I'm like, is isekai actually evolving?
It's starting to realize what we come for.
And that was even crazier when it was farming life in another world, because that one is literally about as generic as any harem isekai I could ever think of. So I was fully on board and ready to accept it being just that. And then second to last episode hits me out of nowhere. The vampire girl is heavily pregnant, and it's like, when did this happen? This guy literally has not had sex. I was under the assumption that he was like a little virgin bitch boy like every other isekai, and apparently he and the vampire girl have been fucking in the back the entire time.
Is it in the manga like it's more implied whereas like
The manga for Farming Life, uh, he literally has sex with like every single character like every night. It is about as raunchy as it could get.
that's what I
They
expected.
literally designed the house so that anybody from any room could enter his room.
Whereas in the anime,
So
it's like a small wooden room where like a part of the tree where like no other entrances.
Well, also in the anime, he's only got one wife,
Right.
which is the vampire girl.
But we're
I do.
that's last season. We gotta keep going with this.
That's
Yeah.
not last season. That's like 3 or 4 seasons ago.
Oh my god. The progress of time.
That is. I'm pretty sure that was like early last year.
You're right. We should talk about another isekai show, Remonster,
Remonster.
the slideshow,
Remonster is
the slideshow.
Remonster literally is this where it's the harem, the super OP harem fantasy, and it's that to a T. He literally saves a bunch of he saves all the women from the evil goblin, and then like within the same episode he's like, oh, you guys, I saved you from ever being raped by that guy, let's all have sex with me instead.
And they go,
And
yes.
they all go, yes, oh my god, we love you. And it's like, okay, come on.
The
you gotta
humans,
be,
he
you cannot be
he
serious.
promises the humans, oh, I'll let you guys go with over time. They're not leaving. They're fully on board to stay.
And then he literally has sex with like everything remotely female that they encounter in the show.
Anything.
He fucks a tree. And the one thing I do like about Remonster is the main character, he gains so many abilities, an absurd number of abilities, but he actually uses them.
That
Unlike
slime.
Slime, where he at the start of Slime he gained an absurd number of abilities and he basically just didn't use them ever again.
Right.
Um, but in Remonster, every episode he gains like 3 or 4 new abilities, and then it shows him using them, and he'll keep using them too. Like the string ability, he just uses that nonstop to basically trivialize any fight.
Spider string is powerful.
It is powerful, and that's why it's not a great thing to give your main character if you want him to struggle in a fight. When if he can immediately immobilize your enemy, why would he not do that? That's a
Huh.
that's a pretty big problem with a lot of the main character who eats monster and gains their ability isekais, which there are a number, a number of them.
Yeah.
They have to basically force plot stupidity on the main character to just not use the various abilities that would pretty much trivialize almost any fight. Biggest one that I can think of that comes to mind is Ari Ferretta,
Oh
where the
no.
main character he gains the abilities of all these monsters, and the only thing he does with it is create a gun and
Oh,
like I guess super regeneration
I dropped that one
because
after
you
an
can't have your
episode.
main character get permanently injured in any way.
Isn't that getting a third season too?
I wouldn't doubt it. Ari Ferretta is insanely popular because it's like the poster child of Edge Boy. He's got cool gray hair. He's got an eye patch with like markings on it, and he has a fucking revolver with like a red edge on it that shoots magic bullets that are perfectly impenetrable. They destroy any armor and magic.
Yeah, just like this ad bot that showed up in the stream to advertise. Right. Anyway, Remonster to me is a slideshow. It just cycles through days super quick,
I,
and nothing
I
really
cannot
matters.
believe. I mean, I guess I can kind of believe. I didn't ever think Remonster was anything to write home about in terms of quality or plot or characters. Every character is basically one note. Who is the Goblin Girl? Oh, she's just nice to the main character and she loves him. Okay, what about his best friend? Oh, he's strong and hard-headed and he likes to fight. Okay. What about the
And
like innumerable other goblins? Oh, they have this specific character design and that's it. That's all their character.
they don't even look like goblins. They like
No,
for like
it's the same problem with slime is immediately after they evolve, they just stop looking like what they're supposed to look like.
and they
Every
look more
character in slime
humanoid than
looks like a
anything.
human, just
Yep.
straight up. Except for even the orcs. I mean, orcs still have pig nose, but other than that, they just look like a pretty big built guy.
We must make you know what that contrasts with? Very good Tsukimichi.
Segue.
Segue into
Yeah, I was gonna
Tsukimichi.
bring that up. Tsukimichi actually does the complete opposite, except for I guess the spider people,
Yeah.
where all the like demi-humans he incorporates into his society still look like monsters. It's perfectly understandable why people who would be introduced to that village would be like, "Holy shit, it's a bunch of fucking monsters. I want to run for the hills." When approached by a fucking humongous hairy boar man with three-fingered toes and hands, they don't look like humans at all.
And that's good.
It is good. It makes us feel like an actually diverse society and not like a completely homogenized one. Slime explains it away as the those underneath him that are like I guess contracted to him by the naming system evolve in a way that the creator or not the creator but the host wants,
Excuses.
which is really kind of scary to me. It's
Oh,
like pretty fascist almost in terms of like
you will conform to how I see fit.
exactly. It's weird. It's very cult like, and
But
a lot of slime is overtly cult like because everybody in his society worships him.
yeah.
Same can be said for Tsukimichi though. A lot of the most of the characters in Tsukimichi basically worship Makoto because but oh, I mean I can't even say but because it's the same thing with slime. It's because he's so ridiculously overpowered.
Well, we always fawn after strength. Another thing I want to note
Yeah,
is that the poster I put up for Tsukimichi kind of does not drive home that the characters that actually look like monsters are a big part of the series.
his main followers definitely suffered the slime fate where they just became people.
Yep.
To the credit of Tsukimichi, though, the characters look good, whereas a lot of the characters in Slime, I genuinely don't really think look very good. In terms of design, most of them are pretty similar. If you line up all of the Oni, which are all the strongest characters in Rimuru's like inner circle, they almost look identical.
And where our main characters in Tsukimichi, not so much. Aside maybe some of the students, but
Well,
they're not really part
Tsukimichi,
of his
the
army.
wait, what?
The the cast for the show. If you lined up his main characters, like
Shiki Mio Tomoe,
right, and what's the what's her name?
Emma.
Emma, right? The main girl, Emma. We got a far more diverse cast here than Slime would let on. I feel like the two other like heroes, their parties are kind of like generic, but they luckily
Well,
don't
that's by
focus hyper
design.
on them. Like,
The
uh,
the main the other two heroes, their parties are supposed to be pretty generic stereotypes because they're supposed to represent other types of isekai fantasy. It's very blatantly obvious that Limia's hero Tomoki is supposed to be a take on the harem OP fantasy isekai with the main character being bullied in his past life and he's just like, "Oh, woe is me." and then the goddess appears and is literally appears as a lolly goddess to be like, "Oh, brave hero, please save our planet from the demons." And he gains what was it, invulnerability or something, super regeneration at night. Um, he gains ridiculously OP equipment immediately, and he has a super move to cause a fucking nuke to explode. And that's like three separate harem isekais off the top of the head I could think of that's like immediately making fun of.
Well, he
The
has
super
the
nuke
mind
is
control
obviously
eye
Eminence
thing
of
that just
Shadow.
makes all the women fawn for him like a harem
Yeah,
animal.
and that was the other thing is I'm pretty sure that's supposed to just be making fun of the fact that in all these harem isekais, the main character somehow has the ability to just make anyone fall in love with him. And it's basically saying, yeah, the only reason he's able to do that is because he's literally like hypnotizing them into it. He's brainwashing them into loving him,
Yeah,
which I think is pretty funny.
I mean, you watch any of the harem anime, that's basically what it's happening because you don't see any form of development happen that quickly where they're instant in love with you.
And then Hibiki is I guess, a take on. It's hers is much closer to like uh, a Tome game, I guess. It's an Otome game slash fantasy hero sort of thing
A Otome
because her
game?
development is closer. What's that?
When you say Otome game, what do you mean by that she has multiple routes to follow?
Actually, yes, because she has the second prince in her party, the first prince who became the big monster late in this season, and she didn't know about that until she still doesn't know. Uh, but both of them were in love with her, and I guess Navarre she had a sort of Otome game sort of relationship with, and then she died, and that became like a major uh, contributing factor to her character.
Yeah, I
Otome
thought she
game
was in
probably
love with
isn't the
her.
best word for it, but she's definitely a stereotype on some type of isekai hero,
Maybe more like this the general one.
I guess.
I I don't know if I could see it as anything more than just like a. She has like the most base party where like it's just this is the like soldier, this is the magician or the archer or
It's
whatever.
funny because even though hers is like the base sort of generic hero and party,
Yeah,
the people of the world itself see her as like a genuine threat because she's like smart enough to actually train and compose herself and rally her troops. Whereas the male hero Tomoki, he's literally just power sponging, and they know as soon as they can remove the source of his power, he's cooked.
which is good because I
And
don't
they
like him, and that's the
in
point
the
of
most
him.
recent episode, they even like prove that even with all of his buffs and all of his powers, he's kind of nothing because their main frontliner just tanks it,
He's
which
just
is
a.
pretty. I like that because it means that when he finally does get his comeuppance, it's going to be like the most humiliating thing possible,
I hope so. I hope we
which
get to
he
see that soon.
absolutely deserves. The whole season really painted him as a pretty despicable subhuman. He's really, really, really scummy. But I also really like how Tsukimichi, especially this season, has kind of established the goal of the overall show is for him to become so powerful that he can freely travel between his original Earth and the New World. basically sidelining the goddess who forced him in there in the first place. It's going to be a war against heaven, I guess, in the end game of Tsukimichi.
I
I kind of expect him to basically supplant the goddess as the god of the world. If I'm being honest,
I feel like they were setting something up more with her too. Like there's probably gonna be some like I feel like this
there's
season
multiple
is they're gonna
factions
have
that
like
are.
another dragon fight coming up based on the opening and what we've seen, but I feel like it's gonna have like the like if there's
Well,
a
he's going to
third
fight
season, it's all
the full powered form of Mitsurugi,
right.
the Dragon Slayer's dragon.
So I feel like the next season for like the next step is him basically fighting gods.
Yeah, once he can solo Elder Dragons, which are supposed to be like the most powerful creatures in the setting, Demon Kings and Gods is probably next,
Right.
which is kind of stereotypical for most like superpower fantasy isekai.
Yeah, I guess.
The crazy thing for me with Tsukimichi is most of what it does on paper sounds generic. It sounds like anything else. You hear main character is so strong that he can solo armies and beat up demon kings and gods, and I go, okay, well that just sounds like Rise of the Shield Hero or SAO or something like that. Or the more contemporary normie isekai that everyone's heard of. But then when you actually sit down and watch Tsukimichi, you're very invested in the characters and the the development of the world itself, and you kind of like forget about the fact that the main character's the generic OP isekai protagonist, because he really does not flex his power as much as most of those others do. He's far more invested in establishing a nation and establishing trade routes. Really, the whole season was dedicated to him becoming a teacher and a merchant,
And I feel
only
like
for it to all burn down at the last second because the demons blow up the city,
they handled
and
that way
the
better than
merchant guild basically told him he's a bum ass bitch.
they handled that way better than the Slime's version of he becomes a teacher and teaches the students. Because
Oh
I
my god,
that part
they
to me
handled
was
it better because they made the student characters far
unique.
more enjoyable to see on screen.
I mean, they're also older, but they're also
They
more
are older.
unique.
They aren't baby toddler boys. I don't want to rag on the fucking kids from Slime too much, but they're just like nothing. There's nothing there.
Right. Whereas there's at least something here. Like they're being used for the plot in
Well,
some way.
the kids from Tsukimichi, they banter with each other. They converse with each other. They actually like have real thoughts and feelings that they express and the viewer can see. Like when they were planning the strategy for beating the lizard character, you actually see their thought process, and it's like I can get behind these characters. I understand them, and I kind of do want to see them get stronger. I don't want to just like forget about them. I would like to see what they can do. So
And
even
to see
though
their
it's the
relationship.
same problem with Slime, where it's a bunch of kids that get introduced into the plot and were not there before, they have far more investment in the viewer because they actually come across as competent, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, they do basically solo the giant monster that shows up in the middle of the arena.
I mean, they were trained by our MC. I would hope so. And Mio.
Mio didn't train them. Mio was just instructing them in the end.
That's all you need.
As far as I know, the kid characters were literally had never been introduced to Tomoe or Mio until that fight at the end. The only one they knew is Shiki, which is the one that the blonde girl is in love with.
White hair.
Is it white hair?
Yeah.
It's so
The
white
blonde
it looks
the
blonde.
twin blonde hair are like
Oh, those are
royalty,
the daughters of the merchant.
the expensive. Wasn't one of them also supposed to like end up with like the prince or something, but she wasn't interested?
I don't remember that, but that sounds fully possible. No, wait. No, no, no. You're thinking of the blue-haired twins. They weren't twins; they were sisters.
Oh, well, yeah,
And those two were royalty from the nation that got taken over by the demons.
right.
The blonde twins are the two sisters that Makoto saved from the curse in season one, and they were the daughters of the big merchant guy.
Exactly. I thought the blonde
Okay,
twins though, they were also maybe not. They just the one won the tournament thing or whatever, and that was it.
yeah. Each of them individually won something from the tournament.
Yeah, it's not really a tournament when you all win.
Well, it's like the Olympics. There's different categories.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of
Olympics.
Isekai,
Oh,
Demon Misfit Academy,
oh
season
no,
two,
oh no. Well, actually, it is
season
season
three.
two, but it's season two part two.
Nobody's watching that.
Uh, yeah, I didn't even give it a shot. The first part was like largely nothing.
It was a lot of standing around doing nothing.
It didn't help that it also went on hiatus for a long ass time.
I don't understand it. The first season was it just had so much swagger. The main character literally walks into school and just immediately kills like the first bully to like come across his path, and then brings him back to life, and then kills him again and brings him back to life like a hundred times in the first episode.
He mind
And then
breaks him.
the whole season is like that, where he's just flexing on all these people in the most ridiculous ways possible. And then in season two, it's like a very, very slow start before he ever does anything that ridiculous. And after he like does beat like the first main bad guy, I guess, it immediately transitions to a oh, the bad guys have taken over the kingdom, and the main character is seen as like a fraud. It's like, well, we're so far past this. This is like a early season one tier plot. This is not a plot that should be happening this far into the series, because the main character is already shown to everybody, literally everybody in the kingdom, just how strong he is. Nobody should be falling for this. There should not be a single person who goes, "Oh yeah, that guy who soloed the king of the humans in the most like humiliating way possible. He's the fraud." Who would believe that?
I I feel like what they wanted to do is like they they almost with the story the end goal they reach it and they just saw how popular it was and kept going with it. So they have to do like big pulls to just be like, well, these people are under a different leadership that don't fear him or whatnot. and it doesn't matter because we already saw in the very beginning who could go against him.
Literally no one. The whole point of the show is that he's so retardedly overpowered that nobody could possibly stop him. Even when he dies, he literally resurrects himself and goes, "You think death could stop me?" And it's the most ridiculous thing ever. I really, really enjoyed season one, and it's just such a shame how season two it just starts off so slow and nothing happens. And by the time stuff does happen, you just don't care anymore.
It also defeated the
There's
purpose of
no
the
there's no
title.
characters in the show that are deep enough that you'll actually care about any plot they're trying to tell.
None of the characters matter outside what at least the first part of season 2 was the one girl that dates the original hero that got reborn as like a what a demon, right? He's a demon.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the whole like first part is the entire arc is about her and how she's like some other like incarnation of like a big demon queen who's I guess also somewhat
she
a
was a
part.
spirit queen, but then she's also evil for no explainable reason.
They just needed to have a bad thing so that we have an antagonist, even though right
Even
when you
though
get to the end, it's not gonna matter
nobody's
anyway.
fooled by it. Nobody's fooled by it. We already know that she's like in love with one of the main characters. She's not gonna just stay evil and uh kill people. She's gonna immediately go like, I didn't want to do this. And like, oh, okay, it's all good now.
What I can tell from part two is, I guess Anos is like there's like a younger version of him or something, but I can't say for sure because I'm not watching the new part.
I mean, I could probably guess what happened. He probably died and then resurrected himself as a baby again, and now
They
he's younger again.
they like to play on this one other like the smaller villain guy with purple hair, kind of reminds me of the character from Blue Exorcist, who's like some like
Mephistopheles.
yes, who keeps coming back to kind of like counter him, and then he goes, "You can't counter me now," and then like stop like anytime he like uses magic or something, he like dies or something. So the details
It's
can
it's
get
a
foggy.
it's a shame because I'm pretty sure they're literally just doing the same thing that the original season did, but because of how long it took them to finally keep going with season two, and the fact that nothing has really changed or developed, the slow start of season two killed off any of the enjoyment the people had for the original show. And anyone who decided to pick it back up after that long hiatus kind of came to realize this just really isn't that good. The whole point of season one is because of how fast paced it was, you didn't have time to slow down and really like think about stuff that much.
Like,
And that's
why does
why
this
it was
character
enjoyable.
matter? Who is this
None of the
character?
characters matter. It's the same thing as Eminence and Shadow. The only character that matters is the main character because he's funny because of how retarded and OP he is. Any stupid thing that could possibly happen, he can do it. Up to and including reviving himself from death.
All right, let's move off this show. Don't want to give this show any more
Very
time.
well.
Um, is there anything else you want to discuss in particular? I got
Um
I got a few I could go into, but if we're trying to find something we both watched, what about mysterious disappearances?
um it's not a good show. I'll say starting off, it's not a good show. But for what it is, it's I don't know.
To me, I'll just
The only
explain it.
thing that
It's
it is
boobs.
fan
That's
service,
it.
essentially.
It's fan service. That's all it is.
Yeah, I went into the show assuming it was going to be something similar to Dark Gathering, with being like monster of the week with ghosts or yokai, and it wasn't. It was the the monsters are like vague concepts of yokai that have possessed people and given them like weird powers. So like the main girl, her power came from the book that she had, and it made her able to grow younger based off of the saying that she does in the book during a full moon. It's all very vague and like extremely specific at the same time. And then once the main guy gets rid of the book that gave her powers, she just keeps the powers anyways. And it's like,
Oh,
well, wait. And she doesn't have any of the side effects from it either. Because the first episode, they're like, by shrinking yourself into a younger form, you still have all of the flesh and like mass that you did when you were 30. So by shrinking yourself, you got like all these broken bones and like muscle and fleshy bits inside of you, just condensed into the body of an 8-year-old. It's like, okay, well, first of all, how does she not just die immediately? And
exactly.
second of all, why does why does she not have the same side effects when she does it now, when she's using it for plot purposes?
I only did
And
episode
then
one, so I thought that shit
they,
would be
they make it
gone.
it's even dumber where she can control like which age she regresses into by like episode 3, because episode 3 they're trying to infiltrate a high school that the main boy's like sister is at, where one of the teachers has one of these uh amulets or books or whatever that give her powers. And the main girl goes to a high school age. It's like, well, hold up. Why is it that before she could only become 8, and it was either she's 30 or she's 8, and now she could go to whatever age she really wants to? That doesn't really make sense to me personally. I thought her power was just to switch between two ages.
How does that really provide her with like any kind of advantage?
Infiltration, essentially.
That's it.
She can shrink herself to a small size to fit into small places.
Okay, but like realistically, there are people that are her age that are just naturally small anyway. This is only
Yeah.
because our character is big fan service, and
Yeah, the whole point of the character is we can use her for any kind of fan service. We can make her 8 for the lolly fan service. We can make her 30 for the big busty MILF fan service. We can make her high school age for the high school fan service.
oh boy,
She is the fan service character, tailor made for whatever specific fetish you need.
isn't there
And
already a character for that?
what, Hatsune Miku?
No, I meant in the show itself.
Is there?
I don't know. I've only watched one
I'm pretty
episode.
sure she is the character. I don't know who you're talking about.
I thought like the other character is supposed to be like a goth Lolita type thing or something, right?
I wouldn't say goth Lolita. She's the like mysterious Lolita.
Okay,
Her whole thing is that she's supposed to be like a creepy sort of expressionless girl.
okay.
Um, then what was it? The main character, he's like some kind of like half monster person, and every time he uses his power, it makes him go like partially blind. And from what I could tell, all his power really is being able to see the signs of a yokai infestation, I guess you could say, or mysterious circumstances happening around.
And it lets him travel to that location quicker or something.
No, it just lets him see it. and it makes him blind by doing so.
Oh.
And his little sister, the mysterious Lolly character, she can just see it naturally, and it does. She doesn't have any side effects.
Oh, okay.
It's like there's so many confusing elements at play in the show, and none of them really make me think, "Ooh, this is really cool," or "Ooh, this is interesting." It makes me think, what exactly was the author doing?
Where did they come up with these thoughts?
Not necessarily what where did they come up with these thoughts, more like what was the point of that?
It's
Pretty
just the
mid show.
creator's fetish.
Yeah.
He had one girl design he liked a lot, and he's like, I'm gonna do a lot with this. I don't know if I'm gonna continue it. I Episode one didn't really pull me in. I just left it on the back burner. I found other shows that are like also kind of garbage this season, but I rather continue them.
Like level 2, chilling at level 2.
Well, chilling with level two, I was always going to start because when I first saw it, I saw a cute wolf girl. Guess I'll check that out.
But you didn't watch Spice and Wolf remake.
Nope. I will just do the original if I were going to watch that.
Yeah. I I'm in the boat where I don't mind the existence of a Spice and Wolf remake, but the idea of watching it when I've already seen the original doesn't really excite me any that much. Because even though I liked the original Spice and Wolf, I didn't like it enough that I'd watch it multiple times. I thought it was an interesting show. I liked the in-depth explanation of a Renaissance slash medieval economy, but I thought the romance was kind of half baked. I
Oh
didn't really
God,
feel
I
super
feel like that might be a hot
invested in
take.
the romance. It's a slow burn romance, but it's also a slow burn that I didn't really care that much about because by the end of the first or second episode, I'm like, they're basically already together.
Then it's not a slow burn at all.
Yeah,
Well then,
I guess slow burn's not the right word for it. I don't know. I just found aspects of the show were pretty boring.
uh, I just never gave it a chance yet. I don't know. Maybe one point I'll go and watch the
Speaking of
original.
boring, I watched the first episode of The Fable,
I
and
have not seen that.
I watched the second episode too. I was sold that this show was like super dry comedy. There was no funny in the first episode.
Oh,
There was nothing funny about it. It was very, very dry, serious Yakuza stuff. And the second episode was really mostly the same. And I was just like, I was kind of expecting like Yakuza, like the game
that's what it looks
hijinks
like.
happening. And all I get is like this guy who's just actually genuinely mean
Oh,
and not funny. And I'm like, I'm not really into this that much.
huh.
I've seen one clip from I think a recent episode where one of the characters, I guess, breaks into the room of the girl character who's pretending to be his sister and finds like a gravure magazine of her with all these like bikini shots, and he's literally wearing her panties on his head. And like, oh, is this what's supposed to be like the funny?
Oh no, that's
Because this is a very low bar joke.
going. Speaking of that, the Yozakura
The,
family show with the
ooh,
brother being
ooh,
super into the
that's
sister
what we
is the most
like.
uncomfortable thing ever, and it is
We love
constantly in
when
your
a main
face.
character, the main one of the main cast, is literally Illumi from fucking Hunter x Hunter. That's what we want front and center in our new Shonen Jump anime adaptation.
Oh,
You want a character who's like Sanji levels of like bad, but to his own sister,
yeah,
and it's not played. It's not played as like I don't know. It is played as a joke,
but
but
not a
it's not
one-off
funny.
and not funny, and it's just disturbing, and it's in every episode. I thought
It's in
eventually it
every
would.
aspect of the show because he is literally one of the like three main characters.
He
His
is.
whole thing is that he's training the main character to be a spy, but why would you want this guy to be the one training him to be the spy? At least have him drop the shtick at least a little bit after the first two or even first episode,
There's no
please.
dropping that. They showed his room in one of the episodes, and his room is literally just pictures of her.
His whole thing is that he's the gravity guy from Mashal.
Oh, the worst aspect of it, I think, is
Dude, speaking of Mashal, I was at the mall and I saw an anime shop, and the only thing related to Mashal in the whole shop was a figurine of the red-haired guy from Mashal.
well, that's
Like
the best
literally
character,
the
Dot.
worst character. No,
He's the
shut
best
up.
character.
He is the worst
He's so
character on the
good.
show.
He's so good.
I hate Dot. Oh
He's
my
amazing.
god.
He's the only reason to watch
He's
the
so
show.
terrible. He's literally an incel.
That's why he's amazing in every aspect. All the other characters already try to act like him because he's so cool, but like they don't get it. He's also
I
in
cannot
another anime
believe they
called
made
Skate the
him.
Infinity, so how do you beat that?
What was the fucking line that they put in the English dub that like went viral on Twitter?
I don't remember.
It was like ladies and uh gentle queers or something like that. It was
Uh,
some crazy dub line that makes zero sense in the context of the show. It was done solely for pandering, and it was just so funny because of how absurd it was.
don't remember. Mashal to me is all right. It's
It is less than all right for me. I genuinely just don't like Mashal.
I think that's a common thing. I think the beginning of it is the best part, and then it immediately just gets worse once people realize Mashal can't do magic.
So the thing with like the beginning of Mashal is there were fights at the beginning that took itself seriously, or were at least like serious moments where he like actually locked in and like did something cool. Like when he first fights the gravity guy, and he just immediately strips everything and dashes down the side of a mountain, grabs his friends, and like immediately disarms the gravity guy. And he's like, "What you gonna do about it?" Like that was a cool moment. I was like, "Damn, he showed his ass." And when he fights the what was it, the silver guy, the like bully character in the middle of the forest, where he tanks all the guy's attacks, punches him once in the gut and takes him down to the ground, walks back and then sits on a tree stump and he goes, "That's one hit. Now stand up and you can take the rest of them." I was like, that is cold as fuck. That was so good. And it immediately ruins all of that goodwill when the next fight, he's just treating everything like a joke. I damn near walked away from my computer when they they were fighting. Everybody was fighting, and he was fighting the lead guy in season two. And in the fight, he's walking on top of his like lead beams while making baby noises at him. And I was just like, come the fuck on, guys. This has just been the whole season. He's just been making fun of every single fight and not taking anything seriously. With to be fair, he doesn't need to because the whole point of his character is that he's so OP and ridiculous that he doesn't have to take anything seriously. But when you have like a main villain and he's just making baby noises at them, I it makes me want to fucking turn an entire show off. I
The
don't want
show
to
also
watch
has too
this.
much Johnny Test syndrome with the sound effects, where it
Oh my
plays the
god.
same honk
Yes,
noise
absolutely.
over and over and over.
I the only good thing that came from like tournament arc, I guess, was the fucking baby magic man where he I don't like any of that part except for the fact that the guy's name is Sitter Baby. And I just lost my mind in the way he said it too. He fucking creeps into frame and goes, Sitter Baby. Like a JoJo character. That was literally the only part of the second half of the Mashal season 2 that I enjoyed. The entire end of it was unbelievably terrible.
That's another show held up by its OP. Let's be real.
The OP for season 2 was really good. It was definitely more in line with the tone of the actual show because it was
The
all
whole
jokes
the whole
and gags.
soundtrack for the show is actually really good in my opinion. It does something with like its own like uh background rap music to like hype up the fights, even though the fights aren't like
It did okay.
very in depth.
That was the thing. That I guess that was part of the reason I was so pissed off at the lead guy fight is because it was playing the like hype music in the background while he's fucking acting like a clown and making baby noises. And in the meantime, the soundtrack doesn't reflect that at all because it's going like wah, 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 bam, 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 and it's doing all the fucking rap in the back, and I'm like, what the hell? How am I supposed to feel hyped for this?
Exactly.
This is terrible.
This is why I left Yozakura up on the screen because that's how interesting that show is compared to at least in Mashle where like we have things to discuss. Where in Yozakura they're all one traits and it goes very by the books. The only props I can give it is it has more spy content than Spy Family does in 2 whole seasons.
Spy Family is it's one-off adventures. It's not spy stuff usually.
Right. But I
I
give
do not want to
Yozakura
talk.
props for actually doing spy stuff. So it has
I
some
don't
like
know.
more unique plot line, even though it's like
I think
one-offs.
spies as like a concept in general is extremely overused in anime at the moment.
Spies.
To the point where like majority of spy stuff has nothing to do with with what spies actually do.
This is this is also a good segment to get us off this one and into a, in my opinion, better detective show. So I guess
Detective
I will be
Conan.
telling you about it because I don't think you're watching a salad bowl of eccentrics.
No.
Okay, so basically this show is kind of like if you had Hina Matsuri but you took Sasaki to and Pichan and made it more like the angle between the characters being like Hina Matsuri, where like each character kind of has like a almost kind of like a mentor type thing going with like a younger kid kinda. Well, not younger kid. One of the
Hmm.
main girls is like a 20-year-old adult, but uh the dynamics between the characters works exactly like Hina Matsuri, the the show with the yakuza guy and the alien girl.
The homeless girl was like always the best character on Hinamatsuri.
Yes, so they follow that in suit with this. The the main girl and her knight travel to this world, and the main girl's like some like big princess stuff. She has like tons of magic, and the knight is just a knight. But the knight girl basically ends up as like a homeless girl, and she's like proud to be a homeless girl. And she like meets some like insane famous guy, I think, who's a homeless guy, and he basically trains her how to like live in Japan. Whereas the princess ends up with like this like kind of basic looking detective guy, and they and she reads Detective Conan, which is just constantly advertised in this anime, and they go on different like detective missions almost, where like someone asks to see if like is my wife cheating on me or whatnot, and they go and find out there's like the guy's been blackmailed or whatever.
Which show is this?
It's a salad bowl of eccentrics. It's
Huh.
it's very much Hinamatsuri. I have been enjoying it. One of the episodes, they basically take down a cult, and they very in depth what a cult is.
Oh,
Well, they don't
here
really
it
take it
is.
down either. They kind of make the homeless girl become almost like this like super guardian of the cult, but she just goes, "Nah, I'm gonna go hang out and be homeless." I'm basically glossing over the princesses stuff because I feel like the main two characters stuff is like too by the books, whereas like all the other side characters have far more interesting stuff going on.
Maybe I should check that out.
I think it's pretty good. It's not very highly rated, and it's probably because at least a few of the episodes I've seen have been kind of like, oh, okay. But I think it has some good aspects to it. I mean, the character designer looks exact like all the girls' designs look like straight out of Sasaki and Peeps, though.
Oh
That's why I brought that
no.
up. But
Oh
it but
no.
it doesn't take it in the angle that show did, in my opinion. It's better. I can assure that.
I swear to you, this show that looks exactly like Sasaki and Peeps is not a lolly harem.
Well, it's definitely not a harem. That's for certain.
It kind of sounds like that one Cartoon Network show. Uh, what was the Cartoon Network show where the girl is a princess and her like robot and her like the best soldier come to Earth and join like a regular high school? Shoot, why can I not remember the
Now
name of it
you
right
kind
now?
of lose me on that. I don't know. I really do like this salad bowl of eccentrics, but I feel like
Symbiotic Titan.
oh wait, okay. Uh, I wasn't super into it, but I did see a few episodes of that.
Symbiotic Titan was a very good, uh, you know, I guess first. It was a good concept. I don't foresee it working out in the long term. It's probably for the best that it got canceled after one season.
Oh, I was more Generator Rex.
I love Generator X. Oh my god.
I would
I
love
don't
more of
know
that.
if I've seen every single episode. I
I
tried to
definitely
when I was
haven't.
growing up. I
I just
liked
don't remember how it
that
ended.
the whole. There's a lot of stuff I don't remember about Generator X. But I did really, really like that the whole setting of it was this basically scientific apocalypse where there's some crazy scientific experiment that happened that ruined a vast majority of the world and released like super virus that makes certain people turn into mutants.
Like
I,
machine, all machine
well,
oriented.
wasn't it just him that has like the machine virus?
I don't.
I'm pretty sure that was it. His was like a genetically engineered mutation. I remember there was one episode of Generator Rex where they go to might have been the capital of South Africa, and the entire city has been completely quarantined because the mutation is so like pungent and virulent in the city that everything in it has been evolving and mutating nonstop since the like atom bomb event or whatever. And when he goes into the city, it's like full of gigantic insects. It was like fucking terrifying. We should definitely stream Generator Rex sometime. That was a cool show.
Yeah, we need to go through the whole thing. I feel like I was trying to start that or something, but never went through because I did do all of Ben 10, where like went through all the series of that because I had never watched the like last series of it because
There
by
was
then I was
it was
doing
a
cartoons.
There's a period of time on Cartoon Network, and I remember it because it became like a tradition for me and my brother and my dad, sort of, uh, where they had like a block of TV on Friday nights where it was Batman Brave and the Bold, Star Wars The Clone Wars, Generator Rex, Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, and I think one other show was in that block somewhere. And every Friday night, my dad would order Domino's pizza, and me and my brother, and I'm pretty sure he was just like on his laptop or something. But we would sit there and eat pizza and watch the fucking Friday night block of Cartoon Network. And we were so hyped for every single episode.
That's amazing. Can't quite say I had that with at least Cartoon Network. Uh, at least in terms of like kids shows. The only thing I could remember is like making sure I was there for like the big releases of like Nickelodeon sitcoms.
The only well, let me think. I remember the only one that I was like excited for the debut and like release of in terms of Nickelodeon sitcoms was Big Time Rush.
I
The
do
rest of
remember
them
the
I kind of
hype
just
they put
watched
into
on
that.
TV. Like I was never there for like the debut of Ned's Declassified
Oh
or
man,
Degrassi or
I never watched
iCarly.
Degrassi.
No, wait, no, I was there for the debut of iCarly.
I was there for that.
I was, yeah, I do remember that. It was like a big event because they kept commercializing it. So I was like, okay, I'll tune in and watch it. And I was like, oh, I actually like this. And then once iCarly ended, they were like, "Oh, from the creators of iCarly, we're making Victorious." And I was like, "Well, I liked iCarly. Maybe I'll like this." And me and my brother watched. We watched like we were not there for the premiere, but we did watch like a few episodes. And we're like, "Oh my god, this shit's awful."
I I knew watching it was awful, but I literally watched like every episode.
I've definitely watched like a handful of them because it was just on and I had nothing else to watch.
Right.
But I remember distinctly, I was just like, I hate this show. It's terrible.
It was one of those shows that really got me into just sitting there hoping for some kind of like relationship with the characters that would never actually happen anyway. But
I still can't believe. Um. So okay,
and a couple of the
I know I've said
characters
this
were very
before,
interesting to
but
me as a kid.
the, the Victorious. Do you remember them constantly advertising that one scene of what's her name, Ariana Grande,
Yes.
with her like getting her tits splashed by the fucking hose? And she like fucking has a wet shirt and she's just jiggling her tits up and down.
Yeah, that was the
That they
advertisement to the show.
advertised that like nonstop when they were like, "Oh, make sure to tune in for Victorious Saturday night." And I was just like, it didn't occur to me at the time because I was like 10. But looking back on now, I'm like, why the fuck were they advertising this? Why the fuck was this their only like selling point for the show? Is like, hey, come look at this teenager's
No,
tits.
I genuinely believe that was the whole point of the show. This is just
Looking back on it now with like the context of like how much of a monster Dan Schneider is, it probably was.
100% was. We watched it
And I guess
because of the
marketing
characters
executives
being
didn't really care because
shown.
A, they were in it only for the money, and B, they're like, oh well, it's aimed at teenage boys, so we're gonna make
Was it though? Was
titillating
this?
footage for teenage boys.
I feel like this was aimed at like either or. You were a boy,
Uh,
girl, whatever.
Upon
You are.
watching the show, it
It was
definitely
aimed at
felt like
anyone.
it was a show geared towards girls more. But I'm saying solely from like a marketing perspective, I would assume that's what they would be like. Yeah, go ahead and put the fucking teenagers' tits jiggling on screen for the advertisement for teenage boy audience. But it's so wild to me that they got away with that. iCarly definitely had some sus stuff in it too.
I,
A lot of the feet
a
stuff,
lot of stuff actually.
but I don't distinctly remember them advertising it with that.
I
In fact, most of the marketing material I remember from iCarly had to do with Spencer.
iCarly stops being about iCarly very quickly, and you only care about the characters' dynamics with one another.
A lot of iCarly advertisements were like, will Sam and Freddie get together this episode?
Yeah, it
And
was
be like,
very much
will they,
that.
won't they? Well, moving on from famous anime iCarly,
Famous anime. Uh,
let's, I guess, close it out with, you know what? Let's talk about One Piece.
One Piece. All right.
Let's talk about Egghead and Wano.
The best arc ever. No, well, no, but
It
uh, best
is
arc in a long time.
unbelievable. It is unbelievable to me how Oda managed to perfectly capture everything that people liked about pre time skip One Piece in Egghead. It genuinely does feel like a return to form.
Yeah, you know what? I do see that because, like, to me, Wano was just like this drag
It was an
on and
unbelievable
on.
slog once they started the raid.
Exactly. We were in that raid for so long, and a lot of things to me didn't seem like it mattered other than Gear 5 at the end. Like, that's all it was really built to.
It was even more of a slog than Dressrosa was, at least in my opinion.
I like Dressrosa quite a bit.
I
Where,
think the thing with Dressrosa is there were so many different like goals and different characters to defeat that had like pretty interesting and unique gimmicks to them that even though it was insanely long, every episode you could feel like something is happening. Like it'll switch over to the dwarves, and the dwarves are with Usopp, and they're underground fighting the the puppet character Sugar. And you don't feel like, oh, we're just wasting time sitting here with the dwarves. You're like, okay, let's see them like actually do something. I want to see the dwarves win the fight with Sugar. And then in Wano, we'll have actual main characters like Frankie is fighting this guy who turns into a Stegosaurus. I don't care. I like Frankie. I like Frankie as a character. I genuinely could not care less about his fight with the Stegosaurus man. And you know why? Because that's all there is to the Stegosaurus man is that he turns into a Stegosaurus. He
yeah,
doesn't have anything else that's interesting. He doesn't have a gimmick. You know what? Who he fought in Dressrosa? He fought Senor Pink, who they made into like genuinely the most sympathetic villain of the entire arc. And the whole gimmick of that fight was that both of them were so proud and like full of manly gusto that neither of them was going to try to like pull a sneaky trick on each other in the fight. They both said to each other, "I respect you as like a fellow warrior or like a fellow man. So hit me with your best shot, and I'll hit you with my best shot." And that made for a really sort of a fun fight because it made you endear yourself to both the characters. Most
that's the
most
problem with
I'm not
most of
saying
the fights in
pretty
Wano
much
is that there's
all
nothing.
the characters in Wano, their only thing is just rar, I'm a big scary monster. and I'm evil.
The
Even
characters
made
there
that
are
a title.
interesting got like shafted in my opinion. Like some of the one guy like that does like the scarecrow thing.
What happened?
Like he puts the thing in people so that if like he takes damage or whatever, those other people die or whatever, right?
Oh yeah, you're talking about the straw guy.
Yes. I feel like he was going to be built up to be something more, and then he's basically just a Wano lackey that doesn't end up mattering too much at the end of this arc.
It's especially disappointing because he had definitely one of the more interesting powers among the entire cast of villains in that arc. Every single villain outside of the pirates essentially just had animal fruits. And there's not a whole lot you can really explore with powers and character with a animal devil fruit. The best that we ever got was with Lucci, where they went into the fact that because he has this big cat devil fruit, it makes him more aggressive and predatory and evil.
Yeah, I feel like the animal stuff gets lost on a lot of people.
Well, they kind of dropped that plot point. They kind of only used it for Lucci just to emphasize how much of a evil bastard he is.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. A lot of the Wano villains just were very, very one note. And it sucks because a lot of them had really good character designs. Like Black Maria, she's a giant spider lady, literally giant. And what do they? The only thing they do with her is make her, I guess, beat up Sanji for being a wimp and not wanting to hurt women. And she just instantly, all of the bad guys get instantly defeated once they actually fight one of the Straw Hats. It's not a real fight.
And the thing is, they can still use that and have it be good, like they do in Egghead with Luffy versus Lucci.
Well, the thing with Luffy versus Lucci round two is to emphasize just how much Luffy has grown from all the way back then. It's sort of making like a call out, being like, this is the character that literally almost killed Luffy in the past. Look at how much of a chump he is now. It's to reinforce Luffy's strength to the audience so that when the actual big bad of the arc comes in, you're like not underestimating Luffy, I guess.
That's the thing. If you're gonna have a fight where the person is gonna instantly beat someone, you need to have something else to drive home the purpose of even showing the fight. If it's just gonna be
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You put that beautifully. If you want to have a character completely dominate another opponent, this kind of goes back to Anos and what we were talking about before with Tsukimichi.
right,
You got to have it mean something to the plot and to the characters. Um, for Rob Lucci versus Luffy in Egghead, it's to show, first of all, just how strong Luffy is, and to basically clown this guy who was such a menace in the past.
and it's done very well. Like they go insane because if you want another thing to compare, it's the animation. They just go insanely ham with the animation now in the fights compared to back then where it was a lot more like budget and they used the same soundtrack in every single episode. Granted, they
And that's
haven't
just kind of
dropped the
One
8
Piece
minutes of recap pretty much every episode. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe they
of the
kind of have. It's not as long. In the older episodes, they just kept putting lots of recap all the time.
padding
Most
for time.
there's still padding in this new one where like at the ending of it they have like chibi versions explaining what's happening. I just skip that.
I think Egghead also really encapsulates the sense of like wonder that you get from a lot of the earlier One Piece islands, like Water 7, where it's just like the island itself is so fantastical. You get swept up in it. You're just like, this is so freaking cool.
Whereas, like, I guess with Wano, you kind of like, all right, so you get the style of this
Wano,
world.
it starts sort of like that, where you're like, damn, this is a pretty cool spread. But because the whole setting of Wano is
The same.
just traditional Japan, it's not like anything we haven't already seen before. And One Piece, even in within One Piece, we've already seen Japanese style towns and cities before. So it's not super impressive to me because we've seen Japanese style characters and settings already. And I'm just like, yeah, it's cool, but it's not spectacular, I guess. The flower capital is pretty spectacular, but we stay in it for so long that wonder kind of wears off. And then the majority of the arcs is spent in the Kaido Superdome, and nobody really cares about the Kaido Superdome. It is as boring of a setting as it possibly could get. It's just a bunch of tatami mat rooms and a
Yeah.
giant open room. It's the Demon Slayer like final arc, and the what was I gonna say? Oh, Egghead probably has one of Oda's single, not a single, several of his best designs I think I've seen from him post time skip. Vegapunk himself is the best flanderized, ridiculous character he's ever made. That's a little bit of a
Whoa.
hyperbole, but
Whoa.
I
Okay.
seriously believe
Egghead himself.
Doctor Vegapunk, Doctor Vegapunk himself is one of his best designs because it comes out of absolutely nowhere. The whole series, he's been shrouded in mystery and intrigue. Is he an evil scientist? Is he just like a well-meaning guy, but he's so invested in science that he doesn't realize how the consequences of his actions? And it's literally been 1,000 some hundred chapters, and we've never even got a glimpse of the guy. And then when we finally see him, he's the biggest joke looking guy ever, and it's amazing.
And he's just a genuine great character all around as well.
Yeah, it's not the fact that he looks so stupid, it's the fact that he's treated still just as seriously as he was built up to be. Throughout the entire arc, he's still surrounded in mystery, and he's still treated as like a extremely um, sort of sinister character. And
Well,
I also really like Stussie's design.
okay, okay,
The
okay.
reveal that she's a fucking vampire.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That episode was unbelievably good with how they revealed that, and the like panning shot of it to make it like fully illustrated, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
We'll have to continue the right where that left off. Anyway, I guess we should wrap everything up now. I mean, there's a few other anime I could discuss, but maybe for another podcast.
Yep, we can just continue this from where we left off next week.
So, is there anything you want to say to our four dedicated viewers?
I love you.
Oh, uh, Carrot loves you.
All
All right,
right.
well,
Have a good night, everybody.
yeah, have a good night. We're gonna go watch Smiling Friends.
Bye.
Bye.